Welcome to the Maine Basketball Rankings Podcast. I am your host, basketball data nerd, Lucas McNelly, and we've got some big news. Maybe you've heard, if you've been on Twitter at all, it's all very exciting. Ace Flagg is coming home. That's right. Ace Flagg posted on his Instagram account that he has verbally committed to the University of Maine, and he's going to come back to Orono and play for the Black Bears and Chris Markwood, and we're all very, very, very excited. This is fantastic news. So let's get into it a little bit. First of all, it threw off all my podcasting plans. So this was supposed to be an interview with Ryan McLaughlin, and that I think is going to now be tomorrow. So first, we're going to talk about Ace Flagg. So I have a couple thoughts on this. They're all positive. He could have gone anywhere. I think we can pretty much agree about that. I don't know that he was getting as sort of a top 25 school, anything like that. And maybe the Power 5 offers weren't as high in the Power 5 as he would have liked. But I think there's a lot of places he could have gone that are a lot higher in the Ken Palm rankings than UMaine, let's face it. But there's a value in going home and going where you're going to be a bigger name and a bigger brand. And I think this is super important. And a thing people overlook in the NIL debate is that there are pockets where you're going to be much more valuable than you would be at a bigger school, even if you were getting the same sort of experience and playing time at that bigger school. So there's an upside play here where if Ace can get UMaine to the promised land, and by the promised land, I mean a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament, because if you aren't familiar, UMaine has never been to the NCAA tournament in men's basketball, which is not a great look. Let's be honest. But hey, there's hope. Hope springs eternal in Orono. The program is on the rise. I saw they were 4th in the preseason rankings for America East. And with Ace there, maybe he can get convince some more people to come with him, and maybe they can make a run at this thing. And someone has already mentioned on Twitter that if he gets them to the tournament, they should just build him a statue outside of Alphond. And if they do, they shouldn't get Dwayne Wade's guy. I think that's really the most important takeaway here is when we have to put up the Ace Flagg statue because he got us to the Sweet 16, don't get the guy who made Dwayne Wade's statue, because good God, have you seen that thing? It's atrocious. But, and probably you already know this, maybe you're already thinking about this, but the amount of attention he's going to get in Maine is going to be obviously huge, and it's going to be way more than he would have gotten at Akron, something like that. He's the local boy. It's a local story. It's great for his personal branding. It's great for the state of Maine's branding. It's great for UMaine's branding. Everybody wins here. And I think it's almost a little bit of a hometown discount for UMaine, where they get a guy that maybe they wouldn't have been able to get previously because he's the local kid and it makes a lot of sense for him. There's probably a lot of extra NIL money in it for him. Speaking of which, Cooper signed on as Gatorade's first NCAA Gatorade player, and I think I saw a valuation of him in the NIL market of $2.6 million, which seems low. It seems low, because there's a lot of people are going to be making a lot of money off Cooper this year in college basketball, and I hope he gets every penny he can get, and I hope Ace is able to get every penny he can get by going to UMaine, and I hope he sticks around for a couple years. And if his brother does as well as we think he's going to do, he's going to have opportunities to go other places. He's going to have, people are going to get a look at him. And it's all just very exciting for anyone who wishes good things on UMaine basketball. And I just really hope they give him his mother's number, because I think that would be very cool. And I'm just going to put this out here. I mentioned this in the interview with Ryan that's going to run tomorrow that we've already recorded. Why don't we get some of the Maine United team back together again? Go up to Orono, see what you guys can do together. There's obviously a lot of good things there. You know, maybe we can make a run at it, win America East, get in the tournament. I'm just saying. It could be very, very cool. And we'll see how it all plays out. But I was going to make a joke about how it's going to be great. And maybe they could schedule Maine and Duke next year too. So Cooper and Ace could play against each other, which would obviously be a joke. And then I thought, how many people are going to not get that joke? And it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of comments. I thought, it's not worth it. Okay. Up next, we have the football. So as I'm recording this, we've got soccer scores coming in for girls quarterfinals. So we've had a couple of big things already. Ellsworth, which was my pick for the Cinderella, they lost to Herman. Presque Isle pulled off the upset there, the 11 seed in B North, and they knocked off number 3 Erskine after beating number 6 Oceanside. So that's 2 big upsets for them. Depending on your point of view, there's a lot of people who think the PVC is that much stronger than the KVAC, so maybe it's not an upset. But still, you got to drive 200 something miles to play a soccer game. And you got to spend that much time on the bus. That's a degree of difficulty that the other team doesn't have. So kudos to them. We'll see how far they can go in this run. They have Herman up next. And let's just see what other scores are popping in. If we got any more upsets. George Stevens 1-0 over Katahdin. There's Erskine Presque Isle. Herman beat Ellsworth 3-0. Madomic beat Gardner 3-0. Brunswick 3-2 over Brewer. And if I saw correctly, that goal was scored with 30 seconds left. Cheverus over Falmouth. That was the game of the day. That was pretty much exactly what the model predicted. Cheverus by 1. Bangor and Wyndham in blowouts. And let's see if any other ones are coming in here real quick. Greenville over Pine Tree Academy. That's a slight upset in 8-person. And we got some field hockey scores. Mount Blue over Mount Ararat 2-1. That's a slight upset. Thornton Academy 2-1 over Sanford. That's a 4-5 upset. Gardner 3-2 over Nokomis. Freeport 10-0 over Lake Region. Yikes. G&G 1-0 over Greeley. So pretty chalky in field hockey. Pine Tree over Valley. Scarborough over Deering. Sort of scrolling through for upsets here. That hasn't been reported. Camden 8-0 over Mount Blue. Mount Ararat over Hamden 3-1. There's the Gorham score. Baps 5-2 over Winslow. Cape 4-0 over Freiburg. Freeport 4-0 over Lincoln Academy. Yarmouth 2-0 over Morse. Fort Kent 7-0 over Mount View. That was a mistake on my part in the goal ball odds that I had 8-9 switched in C North, so it should have been Mount View. But it doesn't really impact anything because they were going to be picked to lose by quite a bit in that game anyway. Trape over Mount Abram. Ashland over Bangor Christian. Wow, that's pretty close for a 1-8 game. 2-1 Ashland over Bangor Christian. Fort Fairfield with a slight upset over Wisdom. And I think that's going to do it. Okay, so up next, we're going to do the football power rankings. We're a little out of order. We'll figure it out. All right, so we're going to go through this somewhat quickly because it's a lot of the same teams, and we don't really need to get into their profiles. Starting at number 10, up 8 spots. Well, that's before we do this. So I went to Oceanside and Gardner this last week, and it was quite the game. Oceanside was up 8-0 early, and it looked like they were going to roll. And I had a note card in my pocket of all of the different Crabtree scenarios and who needed to beat who and what needed to happen and what are there were 7 games tracking for C North, which is one of the divisions that was one of the regions that was really in flux, and where a lot of different things could happen. 4 different teams could get to 1. I think 3 of those teams could drop all the way to 4. So there was a lot in play. And watching all the games come in, and it's always an adventure. And Crabtree's, God help you guys. I don't know who came up with this plan, but stick with heel points, because some of these things, Crabtree things, just don't pass the smell test of what math should be hoping to accomplish. That's maybe there'll be a longer anti-Crabtree diatribe later, but stick with heel points. It's better. It's rewards you for beating teams and not just playing them. Or come up with a system where the scoring differential matters, and whether or not you play the game home and away or something like that. Just saying. So watching all those come in, and so I just want to say, Gardner had a really rough first half of that game. They were down 8-0 at halftime. The offense couldn't do anything, and their punter kept them in the game. And I don't know that you see punters keep teams in the game a lot in high school football, but twice he pinned Oceanside inside their own 5-yard line. So when Zeb Foster, who is a fantastic running back, when he was able to burst free for a 50, 60-yard run, it wasn't a touchdown. They were able to haul him down. The safety from the other side was able to get to him and, able to hold Oceanside to just the one score. Gardner figured out their offense in the second half. They went on to score 20 unanswered. They won 20-8. Oceanside drops all the way to 4, where it looked like they could go 1. They drop all the way to 4. So C North now is going to be Herman, Madomic, Nokomis, and Oceanside. And I think the big surprise, if you had told me 3 weeks ago Nokomis would get the 3 seed in that region, I would not have believed you. But they did it, and they're going to have a rematch of their final game of the season. They're going to just play Brewer again. And that game was closer than the score indicated. It was 6-6 for a while, and then Nokomis sort of put them away in the second half. So maybe there's an upset there for Brewer. Maybe. All right, so let's get to the top 10. Number 10, this was one of the games. This is why I thought this is one of the games that I was tracking. Coney moves up 8 spots to number 10 with a 47-21 win over Mount Blue. That's kind of a surprise that they moved up that far, but I think maybe some of the teams above them lost. Number 9, up 5 spots, South Portland, 39-20 win over Scarborough. Down a spot in 8 is Noble. They lost 14-21 to Bonnie Eagle. Bonnie Eagle, you're going to see later here in the rankings. Number 7, down 1 spot is Freiburg. They blew out Gorham 48-6, but Gorham doesn't really have a lot of points to work with. So, you could drop a little bit just by beating them. Bonnie Eagles, or more importantly, Bonnie Eagle beats Noble with 21-14, and they move up 2 spots. So basically, they leapfrog Noble and Freiburg with the win over Noble, and that makes sense. Wells is number 5. They stay right where they are. So this was a score. Both these teams were undefeated. They beat Winthrop 30-13. Both these teams were unbeaten. Winthrop, of course, had that opening night win over Leavitt, which surprised everybody. And the model had Wells by a lot. I think it was 19. And, that's the model pretty much nailed it. Also, Leavitt, I don't know if Hathaway's listening to this, but so Leavitt wins this week. They beat York. This was another game that I was tracking for it. 34-0 over York. What is going on? I think the model is 0-8 this year on Leavitt. It might actually be 0-8 this year on Leavitt, because I think they're going to win. They get blown out. I think they're going to lose. They blow the team out. I don't know. I give up. They might. I don't know. They could run the table and win the whole thing for all I know at this point. I just have no idea. I can't remember the last time I was 8 games into a team and I had no clue what they were going to do the next week against whoever they were going to play. I just, no idea. Okay, number 4, it's staying where they are. Portland, they lost to Exeter 35-25. That was the WHOU game of the day. Rob and Jared had that one. Exeter's really, really good, I think, by all accounts. Down 1 spot in 3rd is Kennebunk. They won 56-20, and I didn't write down who they beat. So probably not anybody any good, because 56, well, I don't know. Let me look it up. Kennebunk, to score 20 points on Kennebunk seems like an accomplishment. Kennebunk. don't see it. It's professional podcasting, folks. Oh, there it is. Biddeford. 56-20 over Biddeford. Up one spot at number 2 is Falmouth, 31-14 over Messalonsky. And staying where they are at the top of the charts, Thornton Academy, 48-0 over Sanford. So there's your top 10. Thornton Academy, Falmouth, Kennebunk, Portland, Wells, Bonnie Eagle, Freiburg, Noble, South Portland, Coney. If you want to keep going, let's keep going. At 11, Lake Region, they lost to Orono. That was kind of a surprise. Madomic Valley, Deering, Foxcroft, Herman, Greeley, Mount Ararat, Winthrop, Stearns, and Lawrence, rounding out the top 20. So we're moving on now to soccer. And it is time for Let's Pick a Cinderella. I have my chart ready to go. I also should mention, if you're watching this, I got this new hat. It's a Bangor Babes hat because, so if you have an MPA press pass, you can't wear team logos, which I understand. The reasoning behind that, because if I go to watch Falmouth play Noble, they don't want me wearing a Noble shirt. It makes sense. I contend that if you're going to watch Falmouth Noble, I see no problem with wearing a Caribou shirt because, that's not really, that has no bearing on each other. And so anyway, so I have a couple of Madomic Valley hats, but I can't really wear them if I have a press pass. And sometimes, your hair's a disaster. You just want to wear a hat. It's sunny out, whatever. So I thought I need a new hat. My Red Sox hat's looking kind of tattered. I've yet to find a Celtics hat I really like. And so I saw the Bangor Babes, who are an independent baseball team who are not owned by John Henry, up in Bangor. We're having a sale. It's still going on as of right now, 50% off their end of year sale. They've got shirts. They've got these hats. It's a nice little hat. It's a little bit, it feels like it's a little crooked, but I literally just got out of the mail today. So give it a few days to work itself in. It's a nice little logo, if you can see it there. Yeah, so this was $20 with shipping, so it's not bad. Anyway, so support your local independent minor league teams that aren't owned by people who will trade Mookie Betts and break your heart. And hopefully Mookie Betts can finish off the Yankees today. Let me just look and make sure I'm not speaking out of turn, because I believe they're playing right now. Oh, the Yankees are up in the 6th inning, 5-4. So, that's not good. Anyway, don't give your baseball money to someone who's going to trade Mookie Betts because they don't deserve it. Give it to the Bangor Babes instead. All right, so let's pick a Cinderella for soccer. There's a couple boys scores that have come in today. I haven't looked at them really yet, so I'm not going to, that's just didn't factor into this. So the rule is the model picks a favorite by percentage for each region. So then what I go through each region, I do this in basketball, is I pick a team that's not favored to come out of here. Cinderella story. Sometimes it's just a 2 seed, but it's as long as they're not the favorite, and sort of come up with a reason for the favorites to lose. And I get most of them wrong, but it's a fun little exercise, and people yell at me, and people like it when I pick their team. Go figure. All right, so let's start with 8. Let's start it out. 8-man North, 8-person North. Number 2, Piscataquis is the favorite. They are 31.1% to win this region. Let me bring it up on my computer. They're 10-3-1 on the season. They are plus 49. They are 6th in the state in goals scored at 5.2 a game. They have 3 losses to Calais. They split with Calais, who is in this region. They're the 1 seed in this region. They lost twice to Greenville. They don't have to worry about them. Greenville's in the south. Not a problem until the gold ball game. So there's some teams in here. Madnockhook is, Calais is the 1 seed. Madnockhook is the 3. I looked at them, and then I think the issue with them is they got blown out. They're 8-6. I don't love picking a 6-loss team. They got blown out by Piscataquis 5-0, and then 4-2. They lost to Calais, I think, twice. Yeah, they lost to Calais twice. And if you're going to win this as the 3 seed, you're going to have to go through Piscataquis and Calais, and you're not beating 2 teams that have beaten you twice. So I'm going with Calais. They're 24.5%, which is a healthy which is pretty good for the number 2 spot in here. 13-1. They split with Piscataquis, so it's a reasonable one. 8-man South. The 1 seed is Carabec. They are the favorites, 36%. They're 11-2-1. They're lost to Richmond twice. The 2 seed is Greenville, and then it drops off quite a bit. You've got Pine Tree at 12-2. They're 10%, and I just don't see Greenville not doing this if it's not Carabec. Greenville is 12-2 on the season. Their 2 losses are they lost to Carabec twice, but it's 4-2 and then 1-0. So they're getting a little bit closer, and you could see them finishing that off. That's not outside of the realm of possibility. And I really like their logo. They've got the fish logo holding the basketball. I'm sure they don't use that for soccer, but either way, I have a soft spot in my heart for Greenville because they have a great logo. That would be a perfect shirt to wear to the Falmouth Noble game. And I think the MPA should change the rules for that and allow it. D North, Bangor Christian is the 1 seed. They are the favorite at 24.2%. And I should mention that one of the things that factors into whether or not you're the favorite and your percentage is you might even be the better team. The 1 seed might be better than the 2 seed, but if the 4 and the 5 seeds are really strong and the 3 seed's pretty weak, then your path gets harder, and that is a factor. So keep that in mind. I'm not just saying Bangor Christian is the best team in the region, although I think here they are. So Bangor Christian, 24.2% to win it. Madawaska is at 21.2%. Then Fort Fairfield, Easton, and then you get to Katahdin. And Katahdin has a negative point differential, and I don't pick anyone with a negative point differential in this. Bangor Christian is 13-1 on the year. They're 5.7 goals scored a game. That's 4th in the state. They also lost to Richmond, who is in D South. Richmond seems like a pretty strong team in D South, by the way. So didn't love Madawaska's profile. So I'm going to go with Fort Fairfield. They're 11-2-1. They're 17.3% from the 3 seed. They have 9 straight wins, and their last loss was in August. That's good enough for me. Let's move on to D South. D South has Richmond and not a lot else. It's not a real region. It has 5 teams. Is it really 5 teams? Is it 6 teams? It's not a lot of teams. It's 5 teams. Richmond, Monmouth, Buckfield, St. Dom's, and Islesboro. What are we doing? This is not a real region. There are 5 teams in D South, and there are 17 teams in D North. And I get it, travel, but come on. There are also, there's only 10 teams in C South. See, it's not, I get it. Maybe D should just be one region. Just saying. D South, the favorite is Richmond by a lot. They are 47.6 to win this thing. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this one because there's only 5 teams here. So number 2 is Monmouth. They're 37.4%. I think there's only 2 teams here with a positive point differential. Yep. So it's going to be Monmouth. They split with Richmond on the year 3rd. So that's a pretty easy one. Moving on to C North. The favorite here is Mount View at 40.2%. They're 14-0. They're plus 61 on the season. They are 7th in goals allowed at 0.6, and they are 5th in goals scored at 10. And I've already heard from Mount View. In advance of this, they wanted me to know that they only have 2 seniors. And then they are not the favorites in C North, despite what they knew the math would say. And they are telling me that George Stevens Academy is the favorite in C North. Fair enough. George Stevens is 11-2-1. They I had heard from somewhere else that they were very good. They are 24.6% to win this region. They're plus 57. They're 25th overall in the power rankings, which is pretty good for a C North team. Here's the problem. So I'm now being told they're the favorites. They also lost twice to Mount View. So they lost 4-1 and 3-1. So I'm having a little bit of trouble believing that they're favored over Mount View. So I can't pick Mountain View. But if Mountain View tells me that George Stevens is the favorite, then I don't know that I can pick George Stevens Academy. So I'm going with Orono. Orono is 11-3-0. Their two losses are they lost 1-0 to George Stevens and then 5-2 to George Stevens. They lost to Washington Academy. They're 10% to do it, but I'm kind of running out of options here. If you're going to throw away the top two teams, below that you get to Fort Kent. Fort Kent or Washington Academy is plus 39, so you can make an argument for them. Fort Kent is 6-2. They have a 0 scoring differential. And Washington Academy, who did they lose to? They lost to Orono. They lost to George Stevens 7-0 and 3-0. So I can't pick them. So it's got to be Orono. I mean, I don't make the rules, but actually I do make the rules. So I'll do whatever I want. But that's what we're doing. We're doing George Stevens. You tell me I can't take a team, then I'm gonna pivot. Moving on to C-South, Halldale is the favorite in what we are now calling. I'm now declaring this to be the region of death. Halldale is 12-2. They are 26.9% to win the region. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams over 10%. Halldale is 26.9. Trape, the 2 seed, is 14.9. Mount Abram is 21.2. NYA is 16.4. And Waynfleet is 10.7. That's a lot of good soccer schools. It really is. Halldale is as 5.4 goals scored a game. That is 5th in the state. They're plus 59. This I thought this was going to be a hard one. I really did. Region of death and everything. But then I looked at Halldale's 2 losses, and they're both to Mount Abram. And Mount Abram, as you might remember, different coach, but the defending champions. Their 2 losses, or their 4 losses, they're 10-4. They lost to Mount Blue, not in this region. They lost to Monmouth, who is not in this region. They lost to Gardner, not in this region. And they lost to Greeley, definitely not in this region. So they're unbeaten in the region. They're the defending champions. Let's do it. That's good enough for me. I know they have a new coach, but that's enough. Moving on to B North. B North, we have to add the extra rule of, as a Madomic Valley person, as a person in the Madomic Valley ecosystem, I cannot pick Madomic Valley in this. Someone asked me today why I can't do that, and I said that's the rule. And she said, you made the rule, and that's a fair point. It really is. It is my rule, but I think in the interest of fairness, I should eliminate them from this exercise, because otherwise they'd be like the 7 seed, and you know how it is. You'd be like, you talk yourself into it. You'd be like, man, if a couple shots go our way, I know they beat us by 30 2 weeks ago, but I feel like, if we weren't in foul trouble and the shots have been going and we played a little bit better defense, and maybe if we got them in foul trouble, you can talk yourself into anything. And in the interest of being objective, I am taking Madomic out of the equation. We will talk about them. They have quite a bit of talent. They're quite fun to watch. They have a defender, goes by Mo, who is everywhere. He's very fun to watch. I highly recommend that. They have a forward striker, not 100% sure. V, who's on the basketball team, who's had some great moments in the tournament. He's a lot of fun to watch. So definitely, if you get a chance, go watch them play. I'm not saying I don't think they can win this region. I'm saying I'm not allowed to pick them based on the arbitrary rules I made up when I first did this exercise, however many years ago. So, on to B North for real. The 1 seed and the favorite is John Bapps. They're 27.8%. They're 13-1. They're plus 47 on the season. They are 12th overall. If you're wondering, this region has 4 teams over 10%. You've got Madomic in the 2 seed at 13.6. You've got Caribou at 20.2. And you've got Waterville at 10.7. And then it starts to drop. I'm going with Caribou here. Caribou's 9-3-2. I never like to pick against Caribou in a tournament. I don't know why. 20.2% for them to do it. They have 3 losses to John Bapps twice and to Presque Isle, but by a total of 3 goals. So they're right there. They're right there. They're a great pick to come from the 3 seed. You get really good value here if you could bet on this, which we can't. And we shouldn't. B South. You're going to be a little surprised here when I tell you that the favorite is not Greeley. Greeley is the 1 seed. They are 13-0-1. They are 3rd overall in the power rankings, and they are not the favorite. The favorite is Yarmouth. Yarmouth is the 2 seed. They are 11-1-2. That loss was to Greeley. So they are 39.3% to win this region. 39.3% to win the region. Greeley is 38.9% to win the region. Greeley is 3rd in the rankings. Yarmouth is 2nd overall in the rankings. Greeley has the best scoring defense in the state at 0.286 goals a game allowed. That's, what is that? Is that like 4 goals? Is that 5 goals? Let's look it up. That is, they allowed a goal to Yarmouth when they tied them. They allowed a goal to Freiburg. And then they allowed a goal to York and a goal to Mount Abram. So, yeah, 4 goals on the season. Pretty good. I'm going to call these 2 co-favorites because to pick Greeley is too easy. I'm going to go with Morse. Morse is 11-1-2 in the 3 seed. They're not as distant a 3 seed as I would have thought. It's them, and then there's a big drop. That 1 loss is to Madomic Valley. They lost that 1-0. They then tied Madomic Valley 1-1. They finished their season by tying Lincoln Academy 1-1. And then other than that, they took care of business. They are 14th in goals allowed at 0.857. They are 8%. So this is the biggest long shot that I'm taking here, but also they're a 3 seed. So they're the 3rd best. They have the 3rd best odds in this region. Can they win this? I don't know, but you got, this could probably going to be Yarmouth or Greeley, and that Yarmouth-Greeley regional final could be pretty awesome. So if you can get to that, I would recommend getting to that. Unless Morse spoils it, as I have predicted, but yeah, probably not. Anyway, on to A North. Number 1, Camden is the favorite. Surprise, surprise. They are 12-1-1. They're 5th overall. They are plus 43 on the year. That 1 loss, I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. That 1 loss was to Mount Ararat, who is in this region. So they would potentially have to deal with Mount Ararat in a semifinal, which could be interesting. So we can't take them. Mount Ararat has 5 losses. That's quite a lot for this exercise. So I'm going to go with Brunswick. Brunswick is 3rd. They're 16.8%. They are plus 34 on the season. And more importantly, of their 3 losses, they came very early in the season at Lewiston, Yarmouth, and then they lost by 1 goal to Camden, 3-2. Did they play Camden again? I think they played Camden again. They did not. So, but that's a long stretch. They're on quite the winning streak. If my dates here are correct, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 9 wins in a row. So let's go with Brunswick. And then finally we get to A South. A South is good luck. The 1 seed is Wyndham. They're 51.8% to win. They're number 1 overall in the power rankings. They're 11-1-2. They're plus 30 on the year. They're 2nd in the state in scoring defense at 0.4 goals allowed per game. That's probably 5 goals. Let's look it up. So who got to them? Jeez. So Scarborough, in their 1 loss, they lost 1-0 to Scarborough. Biddeford 2-1, a 2-2 tie to Falmouth, and then a 2-1 win over Portland. So that is 5 goals. 5 goals on the season. Who else is in this? Let me bring this up. Falmouth is so it comes down to 2 picks. Wyndham is an overwhelming favorite, obviously. So then you got Falmouth and you got Scarborough, both around 14%. And then, I think it just comes down to Scarborough gave Wyndham their only loss. So it sometimes is that simple. They beat Wyndham. Falmouth tied Wyndham. I think that semifinal, a Falmouth Scarborough semifinal, will be awesome. Will I talk myself into going to that? Maybe. But I'm gonna go with Scarborough here, even though it seems like beating Wyndham is gonna be a long shot. So there you go, 10 regions. Let's recap. D North, the 1 seed Calais 8 North. In 8 South, the 2 seed Greenville. In D North, the 3 seed Fort Fairfield. In D South, the 2 seed Monmouth. In C North, the 3 seed Orono. In C South, the 3 seed Mount Abram, the defending champs. In B North, Caribou, they're the 3 seed. B South, Morse, because we've got co-favorites. A North, we've got number 3, Brunswick. And in A South, number 3, Scarborough. We'll see how I do. Probably not well. So there you have it. Let's pick a Cinderella for boys soccer. Already lost some of my girls' picks from yesterday, which is a tragedy. And that's going to do it for the show. So if you enjoy this, make sure you subscribe to the site. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball, from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy this, please leave a nice review because it really does help out with the algorithms. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Come back for the interview with Ryan McLaughlin. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the newsletter. Enjoy the soccer games this weekend. Have a nice day.